Today I am talking about horrible cars, from the 90s in particular. The 90s had a couple of cars that were really good, really reliable, and did a pretty good job. One example would be the Ford F-150, or even more so the Ford F-250 or F-350, which had an option of an international 7.3-liter diesel, which often got 500,000 miles, 750,000 miles before it was done with, and was really a good truck.
Other examples are a Toyota Camry or Honda Accord.
The cars on this list are not like that. Today I bring you 13 horrible cars from the 90s. Some people may be surprised by some of the entries on this list because generally I'm a bit of a Ford guy. I mean, full disclosure, I'm really a Toyota guy. But when it comes to a vehicle that's made by an American-owned company, I'd probably say Ford. Because fun fact, although Ford is American-owned, more Toyotas are made 100% in the United States than Fords. So there's that. But number one is the Ford Tempo and Mercury Topaz. The problems included the engine. It would run rough and stall often, which can be a really dangerous thing if you're driving in traffic. The fuel systems were subpar. The cooling system was horrible. And when equipped with all-wheel drive, really not an effective all-wheel drive system. Number two, the Land Rover Discovery 2, which was famous for cooling issues and blown head gaskets, constantly failing U-joints, and pretty horrible gas mileage. The things usually averaged about 11 miles to the gallon. Number three, the Chevy Cavalier. These are well known for blowing head gaskets in short order and often had transmission problems. So if you did have one of these cars, you better hope that it's a standard. There was one car in the Cavalier lineup that I thought was really cool, and that was the Z24, but only until General Motors redesigned the entire Cavalier line, because the Z24 with a 4-cylinder, which they eventually did, is just silly. The Z24s from the early 90s were equipped with 3.1-liter V6s. And I'm not saying they're fast for a sports car by today's standards.
I mean, we're talking 140 horsepower at 4,200 RPM, so really not impressive compared to a lot of cars today, but still pretty fun.
Number four, the Daewoo Laganza. This was a Korean-made car that made the other Korean car company, Hyundai Kia, look like absolute luxury. There are really too many things that went wrong with the car to list them all, and there's really not a whole lot of things it did well, except maybe making the interior look like it was made in the same factory as a VHS tape. Number five, the Ford Aerostar, which really had bad handling. It was underpowered. There were all kind of oil leaks, especially around the crankshaft and valve-covered gaskets, not to mention the oil pan. They idled really rough, got really poor fuel economy, and often had transfer case failures. Had really weak differential clutches that had to be replaced often, and oil leaks where the oil would often land on the manifold, causing fires, not to mention the fact that they were famous for blowing head gaskets. Number six, the Oldsmobile Achieva. This car was the definition of mediocre in the mid-90s. They got horrible fuel mileage for what they were, had engines that were both inefficient and noisy. The suspension was also very poorly designed, and struts often needed to be replaced at 50 to 60,000 miles. The automatic transmission definitely left a whole lot to be desired. Ignition coils were known for corroding. The heater cores often leaked and made the interior of the car smell like antifreeze. This usually started at about 30,000 miles, and the cooling systems were often faulty, resulting in head gasket failure. Number seven, the Cadillac Catera. This was a car manufactured by the European company Opel, sold in Great Britain as the Vauxhall Omega, in South America as the Chevrolet Omega, in Australia as the Holden Commodore, and in the Middle East as the Chevrolet Lumina. Common problems included the engine cooling system, often resulted in blown head gaskets and cracked heads. Electrical issues, failing airbags, meaning that the airbag would go off when it's not supposed to, or that it would not go off when it is supposed to. So that's a big safety feature that doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. Number eight, the Chevrolet S10 and Blazer, also the GMC S15, Sonoma, and Jimmy. Part of the issue with these trucks was the fuel economy was really kind of horrible, especially the pickups compared to other pickups that were available, but with no added ability to haul or increase the payload. After the redesign in 1994 model year, the 4-cylinder engines were very prone to overheating and blowing head gaskets, and the other very common issue with these trucks was the heater core leaking, making the inside of the truck smell like antifreeze, transmissions leaking and having very various other problems and various other electrical issues. Not to mention that they had very poor crash test ratings. There really wasn't a whole lot that these trucks were good at other than being piles of junk. Number 9, the Dodge Caravan, Plymouth Voyager, and Chrysler Town & Country. These people haulers are known for transmission problems simply because the weight of the vehicle that the transmission is pulling is simply too heavy for the underbuilt transmissions that were in them. They worked harder than they should have and wore out faster, and this same basic design is currently on sale in the brand new Chrysler Pacificas. Cool thing that did happen during the redesign for the 1996 model year, minivans did start coming with 4 doors. Before this time, they had 2 doors in the front and 1 door on the passenger side for all of the occupants to get in the back. Number 10, the Dodge or Plymouth Neon. There's a famous saying that you've probably heard that you get what you pay for. Well, the Neon was a very cheap car, and paying what you did, you probably shouldn't expect a whole lot. These cars, however, were famous for head gasket and transmission issues. Number 11, the Ford Aspire. If you've ever wondered what would happen if you mix the worst of Ford, Kia Motors, and Mazda, the answer is that you get the Ford Aspire. The first thing, they are underpowered and terribly slow. In order to get any kind of power out of the thing, you've got to get one that is equipped with a 5-speed transmission. But if you get the 5-speed transmission, there's a good chance that the clutch cable will go bad in short order. There are quite a few problems with both airbags going off when they're not supposed to, and airbags that are supposed to go off not going off. There are also problems with electric systems and cooling systems, and if you would like to have a car with a blown head gasket, this one may be perfect for you. Number 12, the General Motors U-Platform minivan. This is a blanket for the Chevy Lumina APV, later called the Chevy Lumina van, the first generation Pontiac Transport, and first generation Oldsmobile Silhouette. There is one word that can be used to describe these vans, and that word is ugly. The gas mileage was nothing to write home about, and although the first versions of this van had a great engine with the General Motors 3.1 or 3.8 liter V6, later models have the 3.4 liter V6, which is known for overheating, head gasket issues, and electrical problems. And number 13, the Dodge Ram, specifically those made after 1994. The first thing I'll say about these trucks is the majority of them were made in Mexico, and when workers are paid less, they simply don't care as much. So the workmanship on these trucks was often subpar, and the biggest problem, which is common in many Chrysler applications, is that the engine was just too torquey for the transmission that was hooked up to it. Getting a standard would be an upgrade and cause less problems, but I'm still saying less problems, not no problems. If you need a truck from this era, I would very highly recommend you doing yourself a huge favor and buying a Ford or Chevrolet or Toyota. Any of the Toyota trucks are just plain bulletproof. So I hope you liked this list about horrible cars from the 90s. Did you ever have one of these cars? Tell me which one you thought was the most horrible in the comments. Let this video be a warning to you if you haven't owned any of these vehicles yet, and stay away from them. If you liked this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do that, and tell all your friends. I hope you have an awesome day and that you keep being kind to one another.